Etai Vecheba Baribo Jalana Elana Kemani Lana Yaba Alpa Swapa Mulya Paile Etai Vechiba Baribo Jalana Elana Kemani Lana Yaba
Alpa Swapa Mulya Paile Etai Vechiba
Alpa Swapa Mulya Paile Etai Vechiba Baribo Jalana Elana Kemani Lana Yaba Alpa Swapa Mulya Paile Etai Vechiba. Mataji's. Baribo Jalana Elana Kamani Labaya Alpa Swapa Mulya Paile Etai Vechiba Baribo Jalana Elana Kemani Lana Yaba Alpa Swapa Mulya Paile Etai Vechiba Bariboja Heavy load Lana Bearing Hey Lana I came Kemane How Lana Yaba Shall I take it back? Alpa Swalpa Mulya a fraction of the real price. Pale if I get Etai here Vechiba I shall sell. Translation I have brought a heavy load to sell in this city. To take it back again is a very difficult job. Therefore, if I get but a fraction of the price, I shall sell it here in this city of Kazi. Responsively, please. I have brought a heavy load to sell in this city. To take it back again is a very difficult job. Therefore, if I get but a fraction of the price, I shall sell it here in this city of Kazi. Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was selling the transcendental holy name of the Lord, but Kazi was a city of Mayavadis, impersonalists, and such people will never chant the holy names of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling disappointed. How could he teach the Mayavadis the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? The attraction for chanting the holy name of the Lord belongs absolutely to pure devotees. And there was no possibility of finding pure devotees at Kazi. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's commodity was certainly very heavy. The Lord therefore suggested that even though there were no pure devotees in Kazi, if someone was a little inclined to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, he would deliver this big load, although the proper price was not paid. Actually, we experienced this when we came to preach the Hare Krishna movement in the West. When we came to New York in 1965, we never expected that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra would be accepted in this country. Nonetheless, we invited people to our storefront to join in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and the Lord's holy name is so attractive that simply by coming to our storefront in New York, fortunate young people became Krishna conscious. Although this mission was started with insignificant capital, it is now going nicely. The spreading of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the West has become successful because the young people were not offenders. The youths who joined this movement were not very advanced as far as purity is concerned, nor were they very well educated in Vedic knowledge. But because they were not offenders, they could accept the importance of the Hare Krishna movement. We are now very happy to see that this movement is advancing more and more in the Western countries. We therefore conclude that the so-called Malechas and Yavanas of the Western countries are more purified than offensive Mayavadis or atheistic impersonalists. Om Agana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, I have come here to sell my emotional ecstatic sentiments in the city of Kazi, but I cannot find any customers. If they are not sold, I must take them back home. I have brought a heavy load to sell in the city. To take it back again is a very difficult job. Therefore, if I get but a fraction of the price, I shall sell it here in the city of Kazi. So, Srila Prabhupada in the purport says Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was selling the transcendental holy name of the Lord, but Kazi was a city of Mayavadis. And then Prabhupada makes the point, which is interesting. The attraction for chanting the holy name of the Lord belongs absolutely to pure devotees, and there was no possibility of finding pure devotees at Kazi. And then toward the end, Prabhupada makes the point that although in 1965, when he went to New York, there was not many purified Brahmins walking around, but they had faith in chanting the holy name, and Prabhupada categorizes that as being the qualification for being a pure devotee. Which is interesting, isn't it? If you compare somebody who's brought up in a very strict Vedic way, and he's following all the samskaras, but the ultimate conclusion, does he have any attraction for chanting the holy names? Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's commodity was certainly very heavy. So it was certainly very heavy for people that didn't have faith in chanting the holy names. The Lord therefore suggested that even though there were no pure devotees, so he was prepared to lower the price to a alpa swalpa mulya, to a fraction of the real price. So that's all Lord Chaitanya is looking for. And then Prabhupada expands upon that by saying how New York. And then we've just been hearing about in Prabhupada Charitamrita how in New York they had the Rath Yatra, and spontaneously thousands and thousands, and then the hundreds were even there late into the night still chanting, that were just attracted. So superficially it would look like, well, these people are more elevated because they're born over here, and these people are more degraded because they're born over there. But then if we go a little bit deeper and we go according to who's attracted to chanting the holy name, then it's a different picture. So and Rupa Goswami advises Drishtaya Svabhava Janateva Pasasta Dosha. Don't consider that because the Ganges is full of bubbles, foam and mud, that it's contaminated. Those who are advanced in spiritual knowledge will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. And in the same way, those that are attracted to chanting the holy names and taking up devotional service should be considered very special, although extending they may have bodily infirmities or complexion like this or that or whatever. These are the superficialities. So it's an amazing miracle that's taking place, that this culture is transplanted into the West and it's now flourishing and thriving. And Lord Chaitanya is asking just for very, very minimal, just to have some faith in chanting the holy name. We therefore conclude that the so-called Malechas and Yavanas of the Western countries are more purified than offensive Mayavadis or atheistic impersonalists. So I was thinking, because it's also the festival today, we're celebrating again the appearance of Lord Ramachandra and the appearance of our beautiful deities, Shishi Karunitai Mahapashashi. So I thought it was interesting to reflect on how when the Lord appears, he's when he leaves our particular purview of perception, he'll move on somewhere else, and his pastimes will continue on, and we get a glimpse into his pastimes while he's here, and then they're recorded in Shastra, and then the Lord moves on to another place. And the significance is that when the Lord appears, then wherever he appears becomes a holy dham. So you can go to Ayodhya and the other holy places like Vrindavan, Mayapur, and there's a special atmosphere there because the Lord was present at one time. So although he's left now, still there's a potency that's there. And Sri Ramraj compared worshipping deities to the same phenomena, that when the deities are worshipped nicely, then wherever they appear, that place becomes also the holy dham. The difference is that if the puja stops, then the dham recedes, whereas in the Holy Land where the Lord appeared, then that always remains the dham. It always was the dham, actually. So the more we focus on our deities, Shishi Kodinitaya Mayapur Shashi, and worship, they say, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that worship of the deities begins by remembering them while performing devotional service. So there's a tendency to think of worshipping the deities as, I can only worship them when I have second initiation, then I can wave a chamara in front of them, then I can consider myself truly worshipping the deities. But everybody can worship the deities because we can all remember their lordships, and as we're going about our duties and services, we can be thinking, I'm doing this to please you, and remember their transcendental forms. And the more people we have doing that, then the more the dham manifests. And because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, and Lord Ramachandra, and Lord Nityananda is Balaram, and Lakshman, then all the holy places are manifested when the deities are pleased. And that's something we can experience. Srila Prabhupada, one time he was saying, how do we know that Krishna is his name? And he says, because we can feel it. So we can feel these things. It's not unscientific to say that I feel something. I feel. I remember when I first heard about the devotees talking about Govardhan Hill and the Jamuna, and I was thinking they're probably being sentimental, because they've spent £500 getting there. They want to make out it was an amazing experience, And I was really in the mindset that I was not going to be sentimental about it. But when we finally got there to Govardhan Hill, it was just so amazing, and swimming in the Jamuna. But before that, I hadn't really appreciated. And also, when we're going about doing our service here at Karuna Bhavan, we can get glimpses sometimes of the special fortune we have, and how sacred the area is becoming because of all the service and all the mantras that are being chanted, and all the puja and offerings and tulsi, and it's increasing the auspiciousness of the whole situation, actually. So, any questions or comments? So Lord Chaitanya, he's saying that he will let the holy name, he will sell it for a fraction, and it's our legacy as we go on to not disqualify anybody, give everybody the opportunity to be exposed to the chanting of the holy names, and from that Harinam, then we see who becomes attracted. From the book distribution, we see who becomes attracted. It's interesting how it works, how Krishna consciousness spreads, because it's not so easy sometimes to see it in terms of numbers or buildings acquired, because the books are out there and people are reading them, and to one degree or another, we have all these closet Krishnas popping up here and there, who are aware of Srila Prabhupada and the books, but they may not be coming into the temples or shaving their heads or putting on dhotis, but it's increasing. And Srila Prabhupada said if we keep distributing the books, then automatically it will increase. And in the same way, by doing Harinam and Prasadam distribution, for most devotees, their first really profound experience of Krishna consciousness was via some prasadam. So that prasadam is going out now to other people. In fact, Gaura Hari, who lives over in Hamilton, he was asking for prasadam. So Raghunath very kindly had the idea, or maybe it was Prabhupada Prana had the idea to give him a tray of sweets along with everything else. And Gaura Hari was so fired up, rather than eat the sweets himself, he took them into work. I think he had one himself actually, but he was giving them to all his friends at the post office. And they were all saying, "This is amazing, how do you make this?" So he wants to regularly now start making his own prasad. And he got the rest of the sweets, and then he can distribute. And then it will have an effect upon people. So that's a fraction, isn't it? To just eat a sweet ball, to just hear a holy name, to just receive a book, is enough to at least give you the opportunity to take up Krishna consciousness.
Whenever I've read about like the big ancient temples in India, like Sri Rangam or Jagannath Puri, I've always been attracted by this idea of everything being, all of the ancillary little industries and people, how everyone is doing something in connection to the deity, or everybody's profession in some way, especially at festival times. Not just in Jagannath Puri, but even in like towns like 50 miles away, there'll be people who are making something for the Rath Yatra, and they'll all bring those things together. So that's a very nice meditation for, how the Dharma can expand, and because because that kind of society has been lost to a great degree, right? With the Industrial Revolution, everything's become globalized. But actually, in a place like Lesnahego, which has still got quite a lot of rural economies, then you can envisage like lots of people specialising in certain things and bringing their produce here to serve the deities and serve the Dharma. So it's a nice
there's a law of attraction, and wherever you meditate upon it, it becomes a reality. So if you have that faith that hundreds and hundreds of people will take up Krishna consciousness in due course of time, and then just be a little bit patient for it to manifest.
Who's this Gaura Hari that you're talking about?
He joined roughly around the same time as me, and he moved out a while ago, and he does a regular service. He was overseas for quite a while, and then he came back. He's working in the post office, and so he can't forget his Krishna consciousness still there.
Is he originally from this area?
Yeah, do you know where he's from?
Bellshill.
From Bellshill.
That's straight from the Chorus we joined.
Oh.
Sorry?
His friend with him before we all joined.
What?
Although he wasn't part of our coming over to it, he used to visit our hometown and we knew each other.
Yeah.
He also knew another bunch of people who became devotees too, so between those two towns there's about 15 people or something joined.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Obviously from Connecticut, or he's from Belsey.
Yeah, it's and these personalities, they were all plopped in a particular location, all next to each other, and then they were all able to feed into the same thing. You get like that little pockets of people all suddenly seem to share the same interest. So rather than just one person joining, you get a whole. That happened in Blackpool as always. There was a whole crew there, and there was another place as well, Hartlepool. There was a whole crew there, and they were all into it together.
Newcastle
From Newcastle as well. So yeah, there's some amazing plan going on, and the Lord's hand is there, arranging things to happen. Srila Prabhupada said, "My spiritual master sent you to help me spread this Krishna consciousness," and at the time they probably didn't see themselves as being anything special, but then as we look back now over time, we see the amazing things that they were able to do. Shamsunda, religion, so many doers, and at the time they just seemed rank and file. But then as we go on, they emerge as self-effulgent, very, very special. And then you try to follow in their footsteps and do the same thing, and you suddenly realize, oh, it's not quite so easy. You know? They just had this. And it's interesting that Prabhupada says actually, he didn't think, he didn't expect, when we came to New York, we never expected that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra would be accepted into this country. So part of the formula is that when you're going to do something, it's not a prerequisite that you're expecting it to be successful. It's practically the opposite, you know. He didn't think, but he tried anyway. And the same with Prabhupada's disciples. You know, they were thinking, well, probably not possible. It would be nice if we saw the Beatles. It was just like there were so many things that they did which just seemed impossible. In fact, that's the theme that runs through Shamasunda's books, Chasing the Rhino. It's he's just waiting for the next rhino of Prabhupada. It's the next thing that's going to be impossible. What's the next impossible thing? And then he just knows it's going to work because Prabhupada wants it to happen. Brahmananda getting the Bhagavad Gita published, I mean, the chances were like 1,000,000 to 1, you know. And the guy pops his head and goes, oh, we're looking for a Bhagavad Gita. He just happened to be there at the right moment, you know. The Brahmananda's laughing, and it's like, he was thinking, they'll look at it, they'll just see Krishna consciousness, this, Krishna consciousness, that, Krishna consciousness. They'll never want to print it, you know. They practically grabbed it off him, you know. Oh, Bhagavad Gita, fantastic, print it straight away, you know. So it's not that when the spiritual master says something that it has to fall within the purview of what we think is possible, and if it isn't, then there's no point taking that on board. I'll just kick that one out. Rather the other way around, Chelsea was looking to find out what the next impossible thing was. You know, they go to Russia. How many people are in Russia? And they bump into this one person who ends up, you know, being like such an amazing devotee, such a powerful, and he does so much, you know, it's very to other people as well. So that's called Krishna magic, the Krishna magic. And all we have to do to experience the Krishna magic is put aside our preconceived ideas and limitations of what can take place. Because Krishna magic contradicts what we think is possible.
It's interesting that Lord Chaitanya, when he came and he saw there is nobody to pay the price, instead of taking back, he was prepared to lower the price. So I think it's very encouraging, you know, we may feel unqualified in some ways or in many ways, but Lord Chaitanya is prepared, okay, you know, if you cannot pay the price, I am prepared to lower it, but you shouldn't be an offender. That's the main thing.
It reminds me, one time we were in Aberdeen and Prabhupada Chan had the idea that the best way to do a lot of books, because obviously if you want to do a lot of books, then you need to have a lot of books with you on the street, and it takes so long, and then you may get moved. So his system was to just fill up a shopping trolley to the brim and then push the shopping trolley over, and then just give the books out as quickly as possible to as many people as possible, and then after that, so he would let them go for a fraction of the price, and then later on he would just engage people and give them contributions to help. So it was quite amazing to watch how fast he could distribute so many books in such a short space of time. But the same principle as well. For many years, Scotland was number one in book distribution, and we had this strategy of having all the books owned in the first place. But no matter how many books you passed out at a fraction of the price, actually they always seemed to come back. We were never sure. So, and it would have been a heavy load to have taken back. Especially in the beginning, we didn't have a motorhome. When I was travelling from the Manor, I was with Krishna and Chaitanya, and we were in a transit van. And it was filled to the roof, so we had to do enough books that day to make sure that we had a place to sleep that night. It was just a few inches off the, so we let the first lot of books go really at a fraction of the price. And so this is Lord Chaitanya. He has a lot of fruits of love of God that he wants to distribute, and to take it back would be very difficult. He's come all this way to the material world to bring this, so he doesn't want to let people to miss out. So the whole mood is just to give, and then by that purification, then people become qualified. And even though it may seem sometimes that people have proved that they're not qualified, like one time they were criticizing Srila Prabhupada because his disciples were kicked out of Japan, and Prabhupada said, at least they got kicked out of Japan. You never even went into Japan to get kicked out. So you don't know how Lord Chaitanya is seeing success. Someone tries to do something, and also you don't know until the end of a person's life whether they were successful or not. You may have some temporary distraction along the way, but what will happen in the few final years or even the few final hours before they leave is something else. So it's hard to say actually, to discern what is successful and what isn't successful. Okay, so I'll finish there on that cheery note. ISKCON Govinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Nitai Mai Prashashi ki jai, Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki jai, Govinda ki jai.
Jai.